The Department of Labor is going to go ahead and define 1099 and employee in a better way to update the Fair Labor Standards Act, finally, after all these court cases. So could you possibly submit to this new test? So this is people that are 1099 company drivers, which there's really no such thing, and for you that are leasing a truck from your carrier, listen up. Can you pass this new test and remain an independent contractor? Hello and welcome to Trucking Answers. I'm your employee host. This is a 4-part test that the Department of Labor is going to have to determine if you are really an independent contractor going forward. So let's go through it. Number 1 is the economic realities test, okay? And that is to determine if you're in business for yourself. So are you economically dependent on the motor carrier in this case, right? This will be across the board, but the motor carrier. Or are you economically dependent on them for work? Do you only get your work from one place? Those of you that lease your truck from a carrier, can you get work anywhere else? Can you go on the market and sell your services to other places? The number 2 section is going to be core factors. That's what they said. So one of them is worker control over your day. So who controls your day? Who controls what you do? Who controls where you get your work? Do they just give you work on a Qualcomm and that's the only place you get it? Do they set the speed of your truck that you're paying money for? Okay. So do they tell you where to fuel, what route to take? And are you required to take it, or is it only suggested? Do you get in trouble if you don't take it? Those kind of things. Anything that they make you do, that they control, that is beyond the scope of what the law says. So you'd have to follow, right, all FMCSA laws, that kind of thing, log and all that. But do they go beyond that? Like, we're limiting your truck to 65 miles an hour, but you're independent, that kind of thing. That is going to be part of the test. And the more control that they have, the more likely you are an employee. The other part of this, of course, profit and loss and investment. So do you have anything invested? So these 1099 company drivers, right, not happening. That's not legitimate. So you're invested. You make a truck payment. Okay. Can you make a loss or profit? And a zero paycheck, remember, is not a loss. So if you're an employee who's independent, a zero check is not a loss. But if you own the truck, you can suffer a loss. You can actually owe the company money at the end of the week. That's good for you, though, because it means that you're independent even though you make less money than a company driver. Number 3 is other things like skills required to do the job. So everybody would have the CDL or they wouldn't be able to be a driver, so that's no problem. Also, the permanence of the relationship. So permanence of your relationship, meaning, is this a short-term thing? The government likes to see short-term for independent contractors, 1099. So the longer that your relationship, for example, a contract that says you'll work here for X time, years, that kind of thing, I'll pay this truck off for years, that's more of a permanent relationship rather than a company that hires someone to fix an electrical problem at their building and then they're gone. That is a temporary relationship, okay? And is your work part of the business that the employer or 1099 place does? For example, is your trucking company hiring you to move freight? Okay, so if you are doing work that the company does, you are more likely to be considered an employee. Whereas a trucking company could hire that electrician to do work in their office as an independent contractor because they're not in the electrical business, but they are in the freight moving business. So people that move freight for them, especially as part of a permanent or longer term relationship, are more likely to be considered employees. And the 4th part of this, they deal with the contract. And what they say in this is that just because you have a contract, so a lot of these 1099 company drivers, their boss or whatever will write out a contract that says, okay, I agree to be 1099, that I'm independent and all that. What the government says right here in this is that we won't even take that into consideration. The only thing that is in consideration of whether you're an employee or 1099 independent contractor is the nature of your relationship between the two of you. Because you've written it out in a contract, that means nothing, which is what I've always said. You can't contract for something that is not otherwise allowed. It's the same as if you had a contract that said, all right, I agree to accept less than minimum wage, and I'll work at McDonald's or wherever for $2 an hour. That would not be allowed, because they would be required to pay you minimum wage. So the government says, even in these cases, it doesn't matter. You can write out whatever you want. The government won't even take that into consideration. What matters is the relationship between you and the person who says you're an independent contractor. So look for these coming out in the future. Very soon they said they're going to have them written up, and there'll be a comment period, at which case then they will take effect. And you'll have a difficult time or not, depending on your situation. And you should think about that now, on how your situation is going and whether you think you could pass these tests and remain as an independent contractor under the new Department of Labor rules, which will be coming. All right. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And for employees and independent contractors, this has been Trucking Answers, and we'll see you in the next video.